All right, thank you. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Let's call our meeting of November 18th to order. Nice to see it's a little warmer outside, a little wet, but a little warmer. So we do know the wet conditions have challenges as well, as we know on sunrise today. So they also have benefits as well. All right, so welcome to everyone. Mayor Sims is out of town, so I'm sitting in for Mayor Sims today, and Councillor Stoyles will bring in the Community Services Report, and I think Councillor Aker will be the second on that report today. And then Councillor Walsh is going to speak to Infrastructure Public Works, and Andrew Ledwell, Councillor Ledwell will be the second on that as well. Got it. Okay? I'm feeling very left out. All right. Well, we'll include you the last of the meeting. How's that? You get to bring in the last report today.
You can third the motions.
All right. So
you can vote.
You can vote. All right. I got a little bit of feedback too. Okay. That sounds... All right. I see one orange sheet outside the kit, and also I do have a piece of correspondence here. So they're the only two items I see outside the agenda. Anything else that we want to mention? No? All right, then can I have a mover to adopt the agenda as presented? Moved by Councillor Aker and seconded by Councillor Walsh. All those in favour? Contrary-minded? Motion is carried. Okay, we'll move on to the adoption of the minutes for the meeting of November 4th. Moved by Councillor Stoyles, seconded by Councillor Tessier. Any errors or omissions? Okay. Councillor Stoyles?
667.
Okay.
I was of the understanding that I voted against that motion, so I would like to be recorded as voting against the motion. And also, while I'm here, I have, I don't know if this is the right time to bring it up, because I've received a number of emails and I have some pictures of other issues in the floodplain up in the detention pond, and I forward the emails off to our Director Yevchek and to the CEO, and I certainly would like for our staff to have another look in that area, because apparently from the residents in Powers Pond, and there was pictures taken on Friday, November the 14th, that there's still leaching and some traces of oil in the pond still, and I would like for our staff to have another look at that area and see if this is the case.
Okay, so you forwarded those emails?
I did forward the emails. I forwarded to Jerry as well.
Okay.
No, I don't think. Well, I don't know, but the pictures came into me on Sunday, and I forwarded them on. Thank you.
Just speaking to that, Councillor Stoyles, I was just speaking with Director Antle at the start, prior to our meeting here today. At the conference that we attended recently, I was at Lakeshore, and they had a park around that in Kissimmee, and they have these detention ponds all around the Lakeshore pond that catches all the storm water that comes in. So they're wetlands, there's shrubbery and grasses and stuff like that. So that wasn't anything new, but what piqued my interest was they had this other device that was installed there, and it was patented, I think, by the city of Kissimmee. And what it does is it removes any solids or floatables in the stormwater, but it also removes any sort of chemical waste. So the sheen that was reported in last week that we've seen up in Powers Pond, had one of these devices been in place, it would have captured such chemicals prior to entering the detention pond. So I do have some information that I will forward to Committee Director Antle, and we can certainly have a look at that. I don't know the cost implications or anything like that, but it was certainly a neat piece of technology to prevent such spillage into our watersheds and our water bodies here. Thank you, Councillor Stoyles. Any other errors or omissions from the minutes of November 2014? All right, let's call the question then. All those in favour? Motion is carried. And then we'll move on then to business arising.
One issue here.
Okay.
684.
Sorry,
I'm humming. 684, Your Worship, which was the approval of the subdivision agreement for Phase 4 in Pearlview. Right. I think we all received an email from Mr. Legg, yes. Who is, I think, he's been on record a number of times as being, kind of opposed to. Well, not opposed to, what he's raising concerns about the level of compliance that the developer has undertaken regarding the landscaping in Phase 3. and I guess to some extent in phase 2 and phase 1, but particularly phase 3, which affects him. I just want to again reiterate the point, Your Worship, that basically this is just a subdivision agreement. And what we did do, in fact, the last meeting was provide 2 amendments which said 2 things. First of all, that no further building permits would be issued until there is full compliance, and we mean full and total compliance. We're not, I want to assure Mr. Legg and others who live in phase 3 that we're not amending or relaxing the requirements for landscape to the developer. There was an opportunity for a construction period and late in the season to get the road network through and the subdivision agreement signed, and that has nothing to do with building permits.
Right.
It does allow him to be ready to roll in the spring, so to speak. And the second motion that was passed by council as a friendly amendment to the original motion was that council would be informed prior to any new building applications being issued or considered by council. And that's not a normal practice. Normal practice is it would just go to planning, and if it's in compliance, planning would issue the permits.
Right.
So there are 2 things there that are put there intentionally to protect the residents of phase 3, to ensure that Mr. Legg's concerns are being listened to and heard and complied with, quite frankly, and also to support all of the other residents who are affected in a more indirect way in phases 1 and 2, and I just want to make that point.
Good. I'm glad you raised that, because you're right. The opportunity to put the road network in place, do any grubbing and stuff, they'll be ready to roll in the spring.
Yes.
But we won't permit any further development
First they
until
have to
they've met the requirements of phase 3. So thanks for raising that and highlighting that.
Is this the same area where we received complaints about noise and that? Is this is the same area where we received a number of complaints, one complaint about noise over when they were doing the grubbing early in the morning?
that was further over in Moffat Road.
Was it
I
further
don't
over
remember
Moffat,
that.
or they said I thought it was the same development. I thought it was the same one. I'm just wondering if it was the
Director
same
Yabchak?
one.
Yeah.
And if
Yeah.
it was addressed.
Yeah, Your
by
Worship,
council.
that is the same area. There was, I understand, from the inquiry we got, there was noise occurring early, I think on a weekend morning, Sunday morning, and I believe that the MEOs went up and investigated.
Okay.
So that is the same area, yes.
So it has been done.
And it has been addressed.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Ledwell?
Thank you, Your Worship. I wish to speak to number 695. That's related to the pumping of sewer water onto city and neighbouring properties at 16 Riverview Avenue.
Yes.
You'll recall that we approved the issuance of an order at the last public council meeting to get that issue addressed. I wish to inform council that the order has not yet been issued, reason for which when the proponent was contacted regarding the order, he responded to the city's request by digging out his sump pump. He's installed a line that ties into the current storm drain, and it runs into a catch basin on his own property. The external pipe that was pumping out the water does not exist anymore, so he had already addressed the issue. Staff are going to be doing a site inspection on the process that he has undertaken as soon as possible. But for right now, we've held out on the order just to see, and perhaps he has already done the work that we wanted him to do.
So the water is no longer flowing.
The water's no longer flowing.
That's correct, yes.
Okay. So the problem has been resolved basically without us issuing the order, or so it seems. We're going to investigate
Just
further.
have to have an inspection done.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you, Councillor Ledwell. Any other items? Any other business arising from our minutes of November 4th? No? All right. Well, let's move on then. We have no proclamations today, but we do have one piece of correspondence here. I think Council received this yesterday. Dedicated fund for wastewater treatment upgrades are needed. This is from the Federation of Canadian Municipalities. And it says wastewater treatment upgrades required by federal regulations will be unaffordable for many municipalities across Canada. We certainly know the costs associated with the wastewater treatment facility that we have here. FCM needs your assistance to tell the federal government that a long-term dedicated federal fund is needed for these upgrades. Over the past several months, FCM has met with senior government officials regarding our concerns, and we also addressed this issue in our pre-budget consultations with the House of Commons Standing Committee on Finance. It's important that key ministers and local members of Parliament hear from you. So they need to hear from the people on the ground. So they're asking that we as a council right to Denis Lebel, I think I'm pronouncing that correctly, Minister of Infrastructure, Communities and Intergovernmental Affairs, highlighting this additional cost and to request a dedicated fund. And they're asking us to copy the various ministers outlined there. And that is from Brock Carlton, and he's the Chief Executive Officer of the Federation of Canadian Municipalities. Would anyone like to speak to that?
Do we need a motion?
Councillor Aker?
Yeah, I just wanted to make the comment that I guess in some circles you could argue, look, if it's a municipal responsibility, then the municipalities should use their tax regimes to pay.
Right.
But in this particular case, the federal government has jurisdiction, I'm assuming in the Constitution it's because of waterways and stuff like that. They actually set these regulations. So on the one hand, they're turning around and increasing the regulations, but there's really no consequences for them. So I'm not saying they're downloading responsibility, but they're creating the regulations. You would think that at the same time, if the federal government wants cleaner, safer drinking water, as we all do, by changing the regulations or increasing the standards, then basically, I guess the plea of FCM is for them to pony up some of the money, at least help us to bridge that gap. So I'll be supporting this letter, and I don't know if you need a motion, as Councillor Stoyles.
Do we need a motion for this?
They did the same thing with wastewater, by the way. They put in timelines for compliance.
Right.
I don't
Need a
think we
motion?
for it.
We have a motion?
All right,
Okay.
I moved it.
Moved by Councillor Stoyles and seconded by Councillor Aker. All those in favour? Contrary-minded? Motion is carried, so we will send off a letter in support of this. Okay, and that brings us now to our standing committees and our committee reports. First up is Community Services Committee, and Councillor Stoyles will bring in that report.
Just have one item, and that's the RFP for our recreation facilities for vending services, and we're recommending that Brown and Harvey will receive this for a 7-year period until November the 6th, 2020, and with commission rates, and I so move.
Moved, seconded by Councillor Aker.
Wanted to say, if anybody is interested in receiving a copy, and that we had a couple of estimates from other companies, and council felt this was the best one, and if anybody's interested in looking at that, I'm sure it will be available through our recreation department.
Would we disclose,
Would we disclose the whole
is
thing?
this
or-
proprietary?
No. Well, we
We wouldn't
certainly
do it?
would disclose some of the amounts and the sponsorship if anybody's
Yeah.
interested in it.
And Browning Harvey, you know, has served the city for many,
For
many
many,
years.
many,
I know
many
growing
years.
up in the city playing ice hockey here, we were known as Pepsi Country. It was a competitive process,
Oh, it
absolutely.
certainly was.
Okay, thank you, Councillor
Thank you.
Stoyles. Anyone else? All right, let's call the question. All those in favour? Contrary-minded? Motion is carried. On to corporate services. And I
Corporate
see that
affairs. Now,
Councillor Aker is already on
it's
the
not a
speed.
bad name, Deputy Mayor. It sounds better like than the Budget Committee or Finance.
Yeah.
A little bit
Corporate
more,
services, my
a little bit more
apologies.
intriguing, don't you think, Director Silver? Director of Corporate Services, I might add. Yes. 2 items for Council's consideration today. First item is some professional development for the Director of Infrastructure and Public Works to attend the 2014 National Accelerated Bridge Construction Conference taking place on December 3rd to 5th, and this is in accordance with our PD policy and our training policy, and I so move.
Moved by Councillor Aker, seconded by Councillor Tessier. Any comments or questions? All those in favour? Contrary-minded? Motion carried.
Thank you. And now we're moving on to the orange sheet, which is an amendment to the original listing of invoices
Nice
that
fall
were
colours,
included.
isn't
It is very fallish, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah, a bit fluorescent too. A little Halloweenish. So the total, Council, you can see there, 21 invoices totaling $2,177,740.35, noting that the bulk of the material items there are either streets and services infrastructure, or they are fire services, Metrobus services, basically regional services and the like. And I'd like to move the list. Thank you.
Moved, seconded.
We're seeing 2 tennis court upgrades there. I'm wondering, is that work being done before the winter, or will that work be done after, or has it already been done? It's been done. Okay. Perfect.
And if I may, Your Worship, I had a complaint come my way. I think the court that was done over in Admiralty Wood, is that listed here? Yeah, I believe I had a resident send me some pictures, basically showing that when the contractor was over there doing the work, that some of the material that was picked up off the old site, I guess, and was ultimately they replaced it, was dumped in the woods, and I think we have the director investigating that.
Okay.
So, pardon me? Nothing to report yet, but I would add that I would hope the department would consider holding back some of that payment if necessary for that particular issue, pending the outcome of your review. Thanks.
Okay. Any other comments? Call the question. All those in favor? Contrary-minded? Motion is carried. And that's it for you, Councillor Aker. On to Infrastructure and Public Works.
Thank you, Your
Councillor
Worship.
Walsh is on the floor.
First of all, before we get into the agenda items, I just want to let Council know that we do have an updated report on the water main break at Sunrise.
Okay.
It affects about 12 houses, and I think now the reported or the estimated time for reinstatement of the water for those 12 houses will be around 8 p.m. This is the second day in a row, I think, that we've had substantial water main breaks. So you have to be mindful, of course, that this is happening. The one thing that I do want to point out, both on Sunday or Monday, whenever it happened, and today again, we were able to isolate some of the areas by shutting off valves, and it points to the importance of some of the regular ongoing maintenance, particularly, I think, the valve exercising program. Mm-hmm. If you don't exercise these valves when you go to turn them or shut them off in different locations, regional locations, they're just not going to work. Right. I mean, so the idea of doing that and some of the other regular maintenance that we do on the infrastructure lines is really, really important. Excuse me. And an incident like this today and on Sunday sort of underscores the importance of it.
Motion is lotion, isn't it?
Yes, it is indeed.
In the
for
human
sure.
body
So,
and in valves
yep.
in the street.
You have to do it, yeah. There's no doubt. And there's a cost to it, and some people wonder about the value of it, but when this happens, you can certainly appreciate the importance of it, the value of
Preventative
it.
maintenance, isn't it?
Yep,
No
it is
different
indeed.
in your car, your snow blower, it's the same sort of deal.
It's the same thing.
Same thing.
Summit Center, 99% complete. That's a pretty high completion rating.
Yeah.
I think for the last number of days we've had staff in there working throughout the Summit Center. We have received from our planning department the occupancy permits for both sides of the building now, both the pool side as well as the dry land side, if you will. We are still addressing some minor deficiencies and some warranty work, and that will probably be going on for a while, but it doesn't stop what we plan to do in terms of trying to get some of the swim teams into the building over the next probably several days or next week. So, you know, we're there really. There are some revisions and minor adjustments that need to be made. Excuse me, to the facility and to the aquatic center in particular. Some things that are happening even tonight that council will be briefed on in committee as a whole. But we're delighted to say that the facility looks great, it's functioning great, and I think people will really appreciate it. And I think we're also drawn really close to an opening date, which is great as well.
Yeah.
How are staff enjoying it?
On the fitness side of things, we took in, I believe it was a little over 70 new memberships yesterday alone. 70. Our capacity in the old Reed Center, we would average about 300 members and then about 160, 170 active members. But we took in 70 members alone yesterday.
Fabulous. Great.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Councillor Tessa?
I dropped, whoa. I don't even really need the mic. I dropped in there on Sunday evening as well, just to have a look, because I know that we've been open to our existing gym members, and we, I think, opened to dry land activities this week.
Right.
Dropped in on Sunday, my husband and I, just to have a look at the facility. It was his first time seeing it, and he was absolutely blown away. And of course, he's been hearing the buzz for literally years, so for him to be blown away, it was pretty exciting.
Yep.
But the summit is offering Try It sessions right now. So for all their classes, spin, aerobics, yoga, Zumba, Zumbini, I think for this week you can try it for free. So if you're not
Free of
sure,
charge?
if you think you'd like to go in and spin for a while and you're not quite sure you want to sign up for membership yet or if it's for you, go give it a shot.
Right.
Give it a shot and see, because it's. And I thought that was really, really cool, actually. And they'll give you the schedule as well on site. And it's probably available on our website. Yeah. Where people can look at what classes are available right now for free. And what a great service that is.
Oh, absolutely. I think that's really going to catch on. I know there's a lot of young people excited. And to Councillor Walsh's point here, I mean, we're 99% complete. And people are anxious to get in there. And I keep telling the younger folk in particular that I deal with on a daily basis that this is a massive undertaking. This is a $35 million operation. We have never built anything like this before in the history of the city. And we want to make sure that when we finally open it, everything is polished and ready to go. So to Councillor Walsh's point, we're there, building-wise, occupancy permits, we're just doing the final touches. So when the general public sees it, they will be wowed. And I think we're going to get a huge uptake. So good stuff. Councillor Walsh?
Yes, continuing on with the report, our roads, obviously, the focus right now is winter operations, winter maintenance of equipment, preparing shifts to be ready to go at the first fall of snow. And usually the early fall of snow, requires some brine and salting of the roads to try to get some surface traction there, basically. And so that's what we're doing. Of course, we hope we don't see any.
Right.
But we've already seen a little sprinkle of it just yesterday. But so that's the primary goal right now, is to make sure that we're fully prepared from a human resources and equipment fleet perspective for winter operations. Regular household garbage continues and is ongoing. Bulk garbage is finished for this year. We had our last collection, went well. I don't have any numbers on the volumes yet, but I suspect the uptake was very good, and usually is in the fall, and the first one again in the spring. Residents should be reminded, however, if they have a particular requirement for bulk garbage, they can simply call the office, and for $45, which is a very, very reasonable fee, you can have bulk garbage collected at any time. And that's really just, it doesn't even recoup our costs, actually, but it's just a nominal fee of $45 if you need to get something out of the way. For example, if you had a washer or a dryer or something like that died, and you had no place to put it, no place to store it,
Right.
you needed to get it out, make a call, they'll come get it for $45. If you were to probably call a private contractor, it probably cost you $200 to get that done. So it is a good service that we offer. There's not a huge uptake on it because we have such good service throughout the course of the year with the collections at the beginning and the end, and then the scheduled collections during the summer month. The other couple of things I'll mention regarding roads is that sidewalk and curb repairs are ongoing, and so is asphalt work, and we'll continue that as long as the weather cooperates. As long as we're not into deep freezes, we'll continue to do that. Parks, the fields have been completed for the fall, aerating the fields. That's a necessary thing, obviously, so that they're in good shape for the spring of the year. We have installation of play structures at Forsey Place starting this week. Construction of the Christmas float is ongoing. That's always a bit of an exciting time, and usually a bit of a team builder.
Indeed.
For sure. But if you remember last year, they did a phenomenal job on that with the train, I think it was,
Yep.
and it was a fabulous float. We're not divulging any information about what the float is this year, but we'll all be surprised when it rolls out of the
I'm
garage.
sure it'll be spectacular.
Um,
again.
Not going to let what go. Okay. Grain Place play structure is just completed, and you can see some pictures attached to that at the bottom as well.
Yep.
And I mentioned at the outset that the UTM crews are, responding to a water main break. When that happens, of course, all of the other maintenance work that would be ongoing gets delayed a little bit, and you focus your attention on the breaks. We do have a tap-in in the Redwood area, Topsail Road, commencing this week. First aid training on Monday and Tuesday for our UTM crews and employees, and repairs and digs are responding, as we did today, to call-outs. And that's basically it for infrastructure public works. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Councillor Walsh. Up next is Planning and Development Committee, and Councillor Ledwell is on the floor.
Thank you, Your Worship. As Council is aware, the first item on our list there, we will be putting in the shed until Committee of the Whole, if you will.
There you go.
We'll be deferring that. We've got some new information, so we'll be briefed on that following this meeting.
Okay.
Moving right along, we have an amendment to propose this evening. It's Mount Pearl Development Regulations 2010, Amendment number 39. Basically, for the most part, what this is a series of typographical, grammatical errors, some errors in numbering on lists throughout the development regulations that have been accumulated by staff over the past number of months and even years in their application of the development regulations.
Right.
Certain letters that should have been capitalized, words that have been misspelled, lists that are not numbered correctly, and we've collected enough of them now that we're bringing this forward to basically do a housekeeping or omnibus amendment and address all of the deficiencies within the development regulations that have been identified.
Sure.
There was a notice of motion that I brought forward on June 17th of 2014 regarding this particular amendment process. There was a briefing session that was held on September 23rd at 7 p.m. We had about 15 individuals attend that particular briefing session. There were some items that had been identified within development regulations that the residents, these 15 residents, had concerns with, and those pertain to the regulations that pertain to the Waterford River and that area and the flood zones and what have you. What we're proposing to do is to put those amendments aside, those ones that pertain to the Waterford River, put them aside until such time that the next full review of the floodplain, next full review of the Waterford River is completed. But we would certainly like to propose that we bring forward the remaining portion of the amendments, because really these are just housekeeping measures. So the committee does recommend that the proposed Mount Pearl Development Regulations for 2010, Amendment number 39, be adopted and submitted to the Department of Municipal Affairs for registration, and I so move.
Moved by Councillor Ledwell, seconded by Councillor Walsh.
Just a quick question,
Yep.
Your Worship.
Sure.
And this would be to our director, and I apologize for this because I missed the last meeting. I was actually in Goose Bay, the last committee meeting. It was alleged or raised in the meeting that in 2010 the provincial government updated the floodplain risk mapping, Mr. Yevchek, and the province was basically asking municipalities to adopt this. But I don't think that there were any major changes in the floodplain risk mapping. But the point that was made is that the city had not adopted this. And the same is true of the 2009. It was a template for flood risk mapping, and the city of Mount Pearl had not adopted this. Are these in fact true, and were they changes to the floodplain, or like what's the facts on that? Because I'd like to have the facts straight for the record.
Director Yevchek?
Your Worship, Councillor Walsh, what happened in 2009, the Department of Environment Conservation came up with a template that included climate change considerations in flood zones. And so if you go to their website, and I actually spoke with Dr. Khan, who's the director of, I think, Water Resources in department regarding this, and it's there. You can see the discussion regarding climate change and flood zones. And what they've done since 2009 is every time they've gone to either put in new flood zones in areas that don't have flood zones before, or revise the flood zones, they've now used this template to apply to the new flood zone boundaries. So as a result, some of these boundaries do change and do kind of represent climate change kind of considerations. But this is an ongoing program. It's not like it wasn't in 2009, 2010 that all the flood zone mapping across the province changed. They're applying it as they actually revise the flood zones, or in areas that don't have flood zones. They're introducing new flood zones. In the case of the city of Mount Pearl and the Waterford River, that has not been done to date. We have requests.
Why has not been done to date?
Because they do have
Why has not been done?
Sorry, I apologize. They have not revised their flood zone mapping and the flood zones. They have a large list of municipalities that have requested changes to their flood zones. We have been one of them. As a matter of fact, we've asked twice now for them to review our flood zones. It comes at a high cost depending on the area of the watershed, because in the case of Mount Pearl, if they're reviewing flood zones for Mount Pearl, they're reviewing them for Paradise, and they're reviewing them for St. John's and the Waterford River.
Everything in between.
You got to do the system, yeah.
Yeah, so they now have a list of municipalities, and they have a priority listing, and we are on that priority listing. I think in the report I mentioned we're number 3, I think, number 3 or number 4, but that's all depending on two things, as I was told by Dr. Khan. One of which is the priority when the new budget comes in, and secondly, the amount of money that is allocated in that category for that year in the provincial budget. So I think a question I asked him is, when could we expect it to be done for Mount Pearl? He said, basically, it depends on the priority and the budget amount. But he said, but you're in the priority listing. But to this point in time, just to come back to answer your question, Councillor Walsh, our flood zones have not changed since they were put in place. Back in 1989, I believe, was when the original mapping was done. There was a slight modification a number of years later, but for the most part, that's what that information is the current information that's being used by both us and the Department of Environment and Conservation.
Thank you. And I ask that, Your Worship and Mr. Yevchek, because the way this comment reads in the
Right.
public consultation is that, there are new changes and revisions to the floodplain, and we just haven't adopted them. That's just not the case.
Right.
Unfortunately, the floodplain information hasn't changed in 25 years. Maybe the floodplain will be verified, and maybe it'll be abridged or amended or revised or changed, whatever the case may be. Sound like Joey Smallwood. But the bottom line is, it's not that we're withholding information or that we're not approving it. It's just we've asked on a couple of occasions. I know that we've asked twice for sure. We'd like to have the floodplain information updated because it's important to us. It's important in our decision making that if we know that something is within a floodplain or bridging a floodplain, we're able to make more intelligent and informed decisions, basically in terms of development applications. Right now, the information pertaining, for example, to Municipal Avenue, which is where this concern came from, is 25 years old. It may or may not change, but right now we're doing a number of different initiatives to try to mitigate any changes or any negative impacts of floodwater in particular in that area. And that the project that we're undertaking with Bay New Plan and in terms of taking water off the sump pump systems that run into the water stream is basically having a fairly significant impact. But we hope to have the equivalent of 500 houses taken off that by the end of this year or early in the spring. Mm-hmm. So we're doing everything we can. I just wanted to raise the issue because it seemed or sounds or reads a little bit misleading. It seems like we have information, there's a revised floodplain, and we haven't adopted it. That's not the case.
Right. When the data becomes available,
we will do that.
We will revise our floodplain
In fact,
map.
we're on the cutting edge of requesting that it be updated.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Walsh. Anyone else? All right. Sorry, I've lost my space here. All right, well, I'll try to be quick. I don't want you dying, Councillor Walsh. All right. Yep, okay. So it was moved, second to call the question. Okay, all those in favor? Contrary-minded, motion is carried. And now we're on to the
Notice of motion.
notice of motion. Here we go. Now I got my place. Sorry about that, folks.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yes, we do have a notice of motion to read into the record, so I'll do that now. In accordance with Section 39 of the City of Mount Pearl Act, 1988, take notice that in accordance with Council's public notification policy, I will, at a regular meeting of Council, move an amendment to the Mount Pearl Development Regulations 2010 that, if enacted, will: Number 1, amend the text of the development regulations as follows. A, in Section 2, definitions, add the following: animal grooming means a building or part of a building primarily engaged in providing services involving the non-medical aesthetic care of animals, including, but not limited to, grooming, washing, styling, and trimming their coats. B, in Section 9, off-street parking and loading regulations, under subsection 9.2, general parking requirements, in the listing of developments or uses and minimum off-street parking requirements, add animal grooming use and 1 parking space for every 20 square meters of gross floor area, respectively. C, in Section 11, use zone schedules, add animal grooming use to the list of the permitted uses in the following use zones: commercial, city center, commercial general special, commercial local, commercial neighborhood, commercial highway, commercial regional. D, in Section 11, use zone schedules, add animal grooming use to the list of discretionary uses in the industrial light use zone. The purpose of this proposed amendment is to define animal grooming as a use listed as a permitted or discretionary use in specific use zones and establish minimum off-street parking requirements for the use. That's that.
Good, thank you.
Next item is our development permit list for the period of November 3rd to the 14th, 2014. You'll see our 3 lists, 3 permits there, actually. Yes, I'm just seeing what you're seeing, Councillor
I'm
Stiles.
wondering if we're going to do,
Yeah,
073, we're going to have to.
Yeah, that's
Right.
exactly it. We're going to remove number 2 and recommend that we pass the other first and the third permits there. So I move those.
Defer the other one.
72 and 74, correct.
Okay,
Thank you.
good. Moved by Councillor Ledwell, seconded by Councillor Walsh. Call the question. All those in favor? Contrary-minded, motion is carried.
Thank you, Councillor Stiles, for picking up on that. Next item is our residential permit totals for the same period, November 3rd to the 14th, 2014. Our total on the residential side for this period is $1,587,100, and I so move.
Moved, seconded, call the question. All those in favor? Contrary minded, motion is carried.
And finally, Your Worship, our totals on the building construction commercial side for the same period is $317,500, and I so move.
Moved, seconded, comments or questions? Call the question. All those in favor? Contrary minded, motion is carried. Thank you, Councillor Ledwell. Not as long as last meeting. You still have a voice now today, so thank you.
Still have ears.
All right, up next is the Transportation and Public Safety Committee. Councillor Tessier.
Very short agenda this week, Your Worship. The first item on the agenda is something that we all look forward to, and that is the Mount Pearl Lions Club Santa Claus Parade. And it's happening on December 6th. I can't believe we're talking about this already. What happened to November? It's on December the 6th, starting at 10 o'clock from Mount Pearl Intermediate School. It's going to go down Ruth Avenue and Park, and it's going to finish at Mount Pearl Square on Topsail Road. So if anybody would like any more information about it, about putting in a float or what's going to be there, please call Gerald Coombs with the Mount Pearl Lions Club at 368-6186. And of course, we're going to encourage all of Mount Pearl's residents, and of course, you know, any neighboring residents as well who want to come out and take in that parade. It's always a wonderful event, and we're really looking forward to it, and we're really going to hope for a good day.
I've got a question.
Sure. Councillor Ledwell.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just want to interject for one quick second. As most of the council knows, I'm a member of the Mount Pearl Lions Club.
Right.
We usually organize the parade every year. Of course, we've also heard that in the news recently, there's been some items regarding the downtown Christmas parade, and whether or not they're going to have as many floats as they have had in the past. And I know that I've been asked the question a couple of times, how is our Mount Pearl parade shaping up? Just wanted to let council know that we are in fact down a number of entries. However, not a large number. We've actually picked up 2 or 3 other entries that we didn't have before. So things are looking good still for the parade. It won't be as large as last year's, but still a very successful parade, I think, is in order. I know that the Lions Club are very much working hard to find even more entries into the parade, even as we speak.
Right.
So I just wanted to assure council and assure the public that another great event is in order for this year.
Thank you. Is there any cutoff time for the entrance? Anybody that may wish to join?
That's a better question.
At this point, normally the entrants are sort of cut off by now, but
Right.
I would suggest that there is still certainly an opportunity for anybody who wants to enter a float or a group into the parade, that they certainly can contact Mr. Coombs, as it says here in the report, and they'd be glad to include them.
Thank you. Councillor Stowes, did you have a question?
Well, that's what I was going to ask, because I was seeing the media stuff, and I was wondering if there was any changes. And I know a lot of the companies in St. John's that put floats in this downtown parade, they also come here in the city.
Right.
And it's great to see them, because they do a number of parades around the region. And I was just concerned if there was an issue, and if we had heard anything on it. So
Okay.
that was my concern.
Great, thank you.
Perfect.
Councillor Tessier?
All right, well, we're all going to look forward to that. And of course, on that day is nothing but festive celebration, because that evening we're going to have our tree lighting ceremony here in Centennial Square. It's going to start at 6:30, so we're inviting people to come out and take part in that. Mary Queen of the World Elementary Choir is going to be leading us in the singing of Christmas carols, and that's always just an absolute delight when the little children are up there performing. We're going to have hot chocolate and cookies available. We're encouraging everybody to dress warm, even though it's 15 degrees today. It was snowing yesterday.
True
So such is the land we live in. So we're reminding people to dress warm, and if you have any questions at all, don't hesitate to call our Community Services Department at 748-1008, or you can certainly go online or reach any of us as well.
That's great. Thank you so much. I was just admiring our Christmas tree out there last week when I was walking in. It's getting quite healthy looking. And let's just hope we had the countdown last year, remember, for the lighting, and
I know.
she didn't light when she was supposed to. So, but that always adds to the event, doesn't it?
That's right.
Yeah, shocking. Yeah. Thank you, Councillor Tessier. So that's it for our committee reports. That brings us on now to any new business, and we'll start off with Councillor Swords.
I just have a couple of things actually. I just wanted to say congratulations to Abbey Clothing. My understanding is they received $350,000 grant from ACOA.
Abbey Shot Clothing.
Abbey Shot
yeah,
Clothing,
yeah.
and they've been in Mount Pearl for almost 12 years now, and they're a local local company, and I'd like for us to write them a letter and
Dress
say.
you up to be any Hollywood character you
I
want.
know,
Yeah,
hey,
they-
like some of the students and young people wore all these neat coats that they bought at Abbey Shot.
We've
that's
had a
great news.
tour a number of times
Right.
in the past, and I know we get invited over there at Christmas time, as we do a number of businesses that have Christmas socials. And one of the places I look forward to going every year when we get an invitation is Abbey Clothing. So I just wanted to say they're doing great work in the city, and hats off to them. And I'd like for us to send a little note
I
and say
think we could certainly do that.
congratulations.
Yep.
And the other thing I wanted to mention is the Northeast Avalon Joint Council's meeting tomorrow night in Flat Rock, and they have a young man, Scott Murphy, coming from Ontario to do a presentation. So if anybody is interested in being there tomorrow night, and in December, my understanding the meeting's going to be here in Mount Pearl. We do the Christmas social for them, small meeting, and a Christmas social
Okay.
every year as well.
Good stuff.
He's talking about finances and projects, and he got a number of different topics, I think, hasn't he?
Madam Beach?
Michelle is aware.
Yeah, he's from a company, E-Solutions. He's mostly just talking about a mobile citizen app and citizen engagement tools.
Good stuff, thank you. Getting back to Abbey Shot Clothier, they were saying they're in 53 countries on the news the other night. I mean, that's incredible. And this extra COA money, I think it was $350,000. They're hoping to improve markets in Canada and in the States. But the fact that we got a Mount Pearl company in 53 different countries, that's pretty cool, isn't it? Absolutely, that's great. All right, thank you, Councillor Stolz. Councillor Walsh?
Yeah, just very quickly, just one item. We know at the end of winter and the onset of spring, when the snow is gone, it uncovers basically a multitude of sins. You know, basically a lot of debris and garbage left around. A lot of this can be eliminated, I think, Your Worship, if people, particularly this time of the year or even before now, would take a half an hour to clear up some of the things around the property. That would include some of the businesses, you know, especially before the first significant snowfall. If there's debris left around, it's going to be there for 4 or 5 months, unfortunately. So I'll just put a word out there to both, you know, our residents, to clean up around the properties, the leaves and other things that are there. Try to make sure that, you know, that is not covered with a heavy fall of snow. But particularly as well our business partners, that they, around their properties, some of the big box stores and some of the supermarkets in particular, if that garbage is left there and we get a fall of snow, it's going to be there until April or May. So just to take some reasonable precautions, get staff out there and get that cleaned up, get those areas cleaned up around the property, particularly along the property lines where there are fencing that holds some of the garbage, that sort of thing.
Right.
So I think it would be a word to the wise to just do that, and that way the spring, when it does uncover, some of this debris, it's not going to be nearly as unsightly as it would be if it were left for the entire winter.
Yeah.
So
And
just wanted to
maybe
mention.
our 20-minute makeover could become a 10-minute makeover.
In the fall, yeah. Well, maybe we could do one in the fall.
I was just going to suggest the same thing.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a good idea to, maybe we could look at that, to encourage the community to do a little 20-minute makeover now, to your point, and pick up all the debris before it gets caught under the snow or, yeah, absolutely. All right, thank you, Councillor Walsh. Councillor Tessier?
Yes, we all, well, those of us that were in town had the opportunity to go down and spend Remembrance Day down at the Legion with the Remembrance Day ceremonies, and it was absolutely a beautiful day, but it was exceptionally well attended.
Good.
It was probably one of the biggest crowds we've probably ever seen in Mount Pearl, and I want to commend the organizers and community services particularly, because the sound, again, I mean, we've had years past where the sound quality was not very good, and once we addressed it, it really hasn't been an issue since, because it was beautiful. And I know where I was positioned, it was right on the far end of where everything was happening, and everything was crystal clear. It was so clear and it was so perfect, and it was a beautiful day. We had talked about traffic diversion for that day. Unfortunately, it didn't happen, or we didn't consider it soon enough for that to happen, but it wasn't too bad, I don't think. One of the complications that we noticed on site is that Metrobus also ran through that day, so we would have had to reroute Metrobus as well, so it may have been a little more complicated. But it was a beautiful day, and it was so well attended, and it was just one of those Remembrance Day services that you'll remember for a long time.
Hopefully next year now we'll be at our new park, and it'll
Yes.
be a bigger site to accommodate more people, and
And it might be a little more viewer-friendly as well, because
Right.
right now it is very difficult. When you have a large crowd, it is very difficult to see the cenotaph. Everybody finds their way over afterwards to have a look.
Right.
That's right, and it is
Right.
set back from, it'll be set back from Ruth Avenue, so we won't hear as much. It'll be level, there'll be no concern with people climbing stairs to go place wreaths. There'll be
No.
more space around the cenotaph itself.
Right.
So I think it'll be a lot more
It's
user-friendly.
going to be fantastic,
Yeah.
absolutely.
This is one of those blurred line things between my committee and Councillor Walsh's committee. The snow clearing ban is going to be in effect on December 1st. So this is just a reminder to all. Yeah, the parking ban. This is a reminder to all of our residents. Right, that's right. You can't park on the street. We're banning snow clearing. Nobody's allowed. Nobody's allowed.
But it doesn't work.
Nobody's allowed. No, it's a parking ban. You're absolutely right. Cars cannot park on our streets overnight after December 1st. This is our last public meeting before that takes place, so this is just a reminder to our residents that you cannot park on the street. Now, of course, if there's a Christmas party happening, you know, I'm sure our MEOs will exercise some form of common sense. But if there is a snow system happening, we are encouraging everybody to absolutely make our lives as easy as possible. So that emergency crews can get through if necessary, our snow clearing equipment can get through safely. So again, December 1st is the cutoff. Take your cars in off the street at night. I received a really nice letter from Danette Dooley. Danette Dooley is a freelance writer. She does a lot of writing for publications locally and provincially. She was dropping her grandchild off at a local primary school and was so impressed by the level of caution and care that our garbage truck operators were using at that busy time of day with so many little children around that she felt compelled to actually let us know.
Nice.
She said it was very clear that the operator was cognizant of the children around, wouldn't move the truck until it was completely cleared, double-checked, and it was just, she said it was just so incredibly impressive, and she took note and thought that it was very important. Like, we're so quick to criticize, and we're so quick to pass on negative commentary, that she thought it was very important that we pass along congratulations and kudos and appreciation to our city staff that always keep the protection and the safety of our residents in the forefront, especially our little tiny children.
Right.
Oh, that's been done.
Right.
It's been done.
Good stuff.
Yes, it's been done. So
Nice.
I thought it was very, very important as well to publicly acknowledge the
Indeed.
caution
Yeah.
and the hard work.
Absolutely. Thank you, Councillor Tessier.
That's it.
Councillor Aker?
Yeah, I too was at the Remembrance Day ceremony, and it was one of the better ones that we've seen recently. And look, there's no doubt it is correlated with the weather. You know, on a rainy day, you're not going to get as many people turning out. You know what I mean, right? You know?
Right.
Yeah, yeah. But it was very well organized, and you know, like I say, it could be the last one that's held down there. I'm looking forward to the new one next year. I think it will be a bit more of a comfort zone, comfortable place to have the Remembrance Day ceremony. A little bit removed from the noise and the traffic, and lots more parking too. So hopefully we'll see more and more people come out. On a sad note, I wanted to make note and pass on condolences to our Deputy Clerk, Miss Mona. Our condolences on the passing of your stepfather. John passed away on November 7th, and I know he was a big part of your family for many, many years. He was like a father to you, and our condolences. Your Worship, if you would mind, would you pen an happy anniversary letter to Jim and Judy Greenland? I was talking to Jim last night, 50 years.
No way.
Yes, they had a
Happily
little
do that.
do last Thursday.
Yeah.
And they were surprised. I think
Wow.
one of their sons flew home from
Nice.
from Halifax, right?
Well,
Which
we'll
was
happily
really,
do
really
that.
nice, right? So 50 years, that's a bit of longevity.
Indeed.
And the last thing I have here was, yes, I was up at the Summit Center last night. And what a happening spot. There was Zumba going on in the gym. There was a bunch of people doing cardio there where the walking track is. The weight room was blocked. It was really full. And then over in the pool, I think they had a bunch of maybe new lifeguards that were being oriented. So, you know, even though the dry land is open, there's a lot of anticipation, of course, about the pool. That was, I guess, the primary driver, but not to diminish all the other facilities. So I guess that's a sign that things are very, very close. So looking forward to it.
Good news.
Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Aker. Councillor Ledwell.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll be brief. I too attended, of course, the Remembrance Day ceremony, and I do want to thank the members of the Legion and our staff, Community Services, for putting off a first-class event. Certainly a very reverent ceremony and well attended. It was great to see that. So congratulations to all involved on a great ceremony.
Excellent.
The other item I wanted to raise, Councillor Aker and I, as well as the Mayor, attended last Thursday evening the Hall of Fame induction for the Mount Pearl Soccer Association. Just want to congratulate Brian O'Keefe and John Nolan on their inductions. A very nice evening. Certainly both are very deserving recipients of the recognition. Spent a lot of years, I know, both with the Soccer Association, so a word of congratulations to both Mr. O'Keefe and Mr. Nolan, and certainly we're all very proud of them at City of Mount Pearl.
Indeed, thank you. I was going to bring up Abbey Shot. Councillor Stowells did that, but I just want to acknowledge the, the accident that happened Sunday night up on Topsail Road. I think it was, help me out with the name of the drive, Humber Drive. Five of my, Mount Pearl students, graduates from last year, were involved. Two of the young men, they were all male. Two are in hospital in pretty, serious condition. Both had operations that they went under. Broken bones, collarbones, pelvises, and stuff like that. The other three gentlemen, escaped basically with minor scrapes and bruises and stuff like that. So I just wanted to put it out there. There's a lot of sorrow and angst in our community right now, our school community and the community at large. So I just wanted to acknowledge that publicly and send out our thoughts and prayers to the two young men that are currently in hospital, and to the other three young men that are also recovering, as well as to the passengers in the other vehicle and all families involved, because it was a tragic event. I remember I was at the school Sunday and heard all the sirens and had no idea where they were going. So that was the cause for that. So again, our thoughts and prayers go out to all involved. And if there's nothing else, then we'll end the meeting, call a motion to adjourn, and move by Councillor Tessier. We are adjourned. Thank you.